deep breath. If there's something that any pastor or preacher, leader of the church should live for, it's this day. It's for Easter. It's to preach our story. Man, that is hard to go after something like that. Well, where do we go from here? Well, we're going to do some of those things. And again, thank you, Sarah, for that powerful display for us today. We're looking at the first 8 verses of Mark's final chapter in his gospel account, 16 verses 1 through 8. And the title of the message calls Risen today for a lot of obvious reasons for us. But as a church, for those of you that haven't been with us through this Lenten season, or those of us who maybe haven't been through all of the weeks together, as we walk through our Lenten journey, kind of walking through the last week of Jesus' life, because about a third of the whole entire gospel accounts, all 4 gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, centered on the last week of Jesus' life, when prophecy was fulfilled and promises were made, and we sort of get these significant moments that all of Scripture stands out, but these specific things that took up so much page time in the 4 gospel accounts, it was worth stopping at a few places. And so this last week in Holy Week, from Maundy Thursday to our Good Friday service to today, we've taken this journey and stopped several places. And this is that moment where along any journey you finally get to its end, but as Sarah demonstrated for us along with the song, it's the end of the beginning. So I'd like to read these first 8 verses here. Well, and actually when you've looked at the Gospel according to Mark, it showed that the earliest manuscripts stop after verse 8. But later on, it seems that there were some added to that, as there were other manuscripts found that give 9 through 20. So I'm not going to share the rest of 9 through 20 because I want us to pause and see sort of in our original text and this original meaning. So let's look at 1 through 8. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go and anoint Jesus' body. And there was probably a good anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds of spices is what is told in those days for this journey. So they were carrying this. Verse 2. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb. And they asked each other this question: who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb? Because that weighed about a ton. But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled away. Verse 5. And as they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in white robes sitting there on the right side. And they were alarmed. They were taken back. Verse 6, the young man dressed in white said, "Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. But he is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go and tell the disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you." And finally in verse 8, with trembling and bewilderment, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to no one because they were afraid. We'll stop there. It's important because we know there are some other things that happen there, because we see other accounts from the other Gospels, and of course added to this from 9 to 20. But I want us to stop there because we know that Jesus is encountered by several people along the same times, and we get our Emmaus story from there and those other times in Galilee. But I want us to stop there just to maybe anticipate what Mark was feeling. That everything that we know and we believe in comes to this moment that the details later help form our faith, right? They're all important. We could stop there, couldn't we, and still celebrate Easter because Jesus is who Jesus said he was, and Jesus did exactly what he said was going to happen. Now I know that we have some women here because I've seen some of the pictures on Instagram and Facebook that work out. The weights. Right? That are sweating, that are building their muscle. But I would still submit to you that 3 women of those days who didn't necessarily have the gyms or weren't allowed to do anything that was really physically intensive probably had a really good question. How are we going to move this ton or so stone out of the way when it took Roman centurions, professional soldiers and bodyguards, and it was given the seal of Rome, highly protected? Surely these women had a problem on their hands. They were coming with these spices, but how are they going to roll this heavy stone away? My dear friends, they went. Only on the way, only during their journey of obedience, only during their journey of faith, did they decide to ask the question. You see, they weren't at home, or they weren't packing the spices, right? They weren't preparing for the journey and deciding, we had better work this out before we get there, or else they might not have left. Because the disciples, of course, were sort of in hiding, weren't they? They were behind, they were in places, they were kind of fearing for what was going on because they didn't understand what was going to happen. So their closest allies, and the 11 of them might have been able to move something like this, but they didn't work it out. They simply knew they were going to honor Christ, they were going to go there, and somehow they wondered, how are we going to do this? But they didn't let the problem of the stone, they didn't let the weight of the stone, the obstacle of the stone, stop them from being faithful. They wondered to themselves, how will it be rolled away? And you see, when they arrived, all that worry, all that trying to work it out, it didn't stop them, but they just supposed it was already taken care of in a mighty way. See, the Roman soldiers weren't there. They moved it away and said, hey, we expected you coming. Come on in. Who moved the stone? God did. God did. God moved the stone, and God breathed new life into Jesus to display His power and love for us. This is why I would ask you, my friends, when we're walking through celebrating the resurrection of Christ, celebrating life that does not end, the victory over the grave, can I ask, do you have a stone in your life right now that you just can't see how it can be moved? Do you have something blocking your path that feels like it weighs a ton, it's so much bigger, even you and your friends gathered cannot move it? Is there a stone that's blocking your path to the empty tomb where Jesus is? Does your faith lead you only so far? Or do we not even get on the path because we're wondering, how is this going to be moved? How can this get out of my way? I want us to think about this account because chronologically, the first gospel account was Mark's. And he tells us how powerful it is that we walk in faithfulness and leave the stone moving to the one who created the stones in the first place. To know that maybe the tomb that we're seeking is one literally when we will find death in there, and we won't encounter the resurrected Christ, because that's not the place that we are supposed to be anyway. But we pray for God to move the stone in front of us. Hear me, my friends. The power of God moved the stone for the faithful. The creator of those stones. We pray in His name. Lord, if there is something, if there is a lack of forgiveness, if there is a lack of mercy, if there's a hurt that doesn't seem to ever scab over on our souls, if there is someone in our lives who continues to hurt us and we don't know how to figure that out, if there's a situation, if there's something that's coming and we don't see the end, if there's a health thing, whatever the situation is, whatever the rock is in this place, let's not figure it out before we decide to be faithful, but let's believe in the one who said He was going to rise from the dead. Let's believe on the one who said 3 days later you're going to see this happen. Let's believe in the creator of this world who created the barriers and stones, that if they're meant to be moved, then God will move them. And would you believe, just like this story, God doesn't need our suggestions or our help to move them. He will move them in mighty ways. Why? So it won't be, look at the gun show, guys, I helped move this mountain. It will point to the cross and say it wasn't on Matt Osborne's shoulder that any rock was moved. It was because the power of Christ moved that stone. Although I do work out. The single most important event in history, brothers and sisters in Christ, is an event that dare not be held sacred only in this space. Hear me, I didn't say it shouldn't be held sacred. It shouldn't be held sacred and caged, but behind lock and key when we lock up the church today, and it shouldn't live this afternoon or Monday or 2 months from now. This is our story, but it's not a story we keep to ourselves. It's a story that begs us to go and tell someone about it, to experience the power of resurrection, and to go tell someone about it. I was at a baby shower yesterday, and I've never really been to one before, so I didn't know what to expect. You know, guy. So anyway, we got to this baby shower, and there was this anticipation of what was. If any of you ever been to a baby shower, or you've got the news, right, by the phone, the one that had the cord on it, or the one without the cord on it, however we got the news, right, it was exciting. What do? What are we going to tell somebody, right? This is a big thing. This is new life. Do you hear me, friends? It was new life. And so we celebrated for hours, right? And we celebrated in different ways with food that we're really good at, and with gifts, and with well wishes, and all these kinds of things. We celebrated the new life to come. Because we knew it changes lives. We knew little miracles will change us forever. And it will show us the depths of love. If we have any parents, grandparents, aunts, or uncles, you know that when they take those first breaths, those little ones somehow unlock a place, a hallway of love that we never knew we were capable of before. A sacrificial, unconditional love. And we're excited to bring that, excited for other people to know that. But it was such anticipation of new life that we celebrated all day long. That celebration is still going on in their lives today. Not just when we lock the doors when the baby shower was over. And every day of anticipating new life is going to be full of the hope that Christ will bring that little child. New life. We celebrate this. And just like I'm telling you now, the good news of the arrival of that little girl is going to be worth celebrating. It's going to be worth telling the world of. It will be good news. And I know when I hear it, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my wife about it. Because the good news of the arrival of a baby, of new life in this world, is the kind of news you share. And she's going to look at me and she's going to say, Matt, I already knew. It's always how it works, right? I never really have the original good news to share with you. But just like that, you know what I mean? More so than that. Because you know, in a weird way to believe, at one time I was that small baby that people celebrated and told other people about. And I used to be cute. I used to be cuddly. And about 2 chairs I have now. But people celebrated my life. And in different ways they still celebrate it. I know that. And as I grow up, and now I'm looking at entering into the second act of life, I'm learning to celebrate differently. I'm looking to remember that same celebration. As I might be bigger now, I understand more. And believe me, there are a lot of things, my dear friends, I want to do. I want to be a good husband and dad for a long time. But when I breathe my last breath this side of heaven, I know it's the end of the beginning. And I know that our journey continues on. I'm going to share with you this. This isn't a made-up illustration, or this isn't someone else's, this is mine. This is ours. These flowers, 24 hours ago, were laying beside a casket that was closed before us. We were reflecting on their life. And even at 90 years, there were tears because it wasn't enough time. Even over 50 years of marriage wasn't enough time. Even 18 years of grandkids was not enough time. Even 90 years, which is above the average, right, was not enough time. And they said, Pastor, do you want one of these? Especially for Easter. It's white. It reminds us how fast life goes. And you can talk about death with no fear tomorrow. I said, well, that might work. We don't fear death as little Christ, as Christians. Why? Because we know that's not it. We know that's not all there is. We don't fear death because Jesus went in and left an empty tomb behind. So there's going to be nothing but dust there when we return. That's not the end. You will come with me into paradise. In that moment, it won't matter how well we behaved in church. It won't matter our attendance. It won't matter how much we made or what we did or what committees we served on. It won't matter how religious we were. It'll matter about a relationship we have for Jesus the Christ, the coming, conquering Messiah, the King of Kings, the one who took on flesh to understand what it was like to be broken like me, yet never sinned and took my place because I can't help myself. I can't move the rocks in my life, but He can. Jesus came to show us the way. And the next time that we take our last breath this side of heaven, and those flowers are for me, my next breath is going to be in front of the throne. And there's only going to be one question that's ever going to mean anything. What do I believe about Jesus? Because in that moment, when that question hangs there, my mouth will slack open. And I'll struggle for words to say. But I can only imagine in my mind that's that moment when Jesus is going to say, hey man, don't sweat it. Dad, I got this. He's one of mine. He's one of mine. Do we know of Jesus here? Do we have a relationship with Jesus here? Praise God, He's not going to ask for some type of book report or paper or statement that sounds pretty of what I believe in Jesus from what I know here. He's going to ask, show me the proof of what you believed in me and how you walked in the way that leads to life. Because Jesus says, I am the only way. There's not extra credit to get you over the curve. There's not exceptions. The only way is through Christ. I share this with you today, my friends, because I want us to think about this opportunity. Do we think that when this story was over at the end of Mark, that's the end? Because I don't know how your scripture looks, even the small little ones that are the New Testament. There's a couple more Gospels. There's the early church in the book of Acts, and there's all these letters and chapters and things like that that are written from Paul and several other witness accounts. That's not the end. The resurrection doesn't just stop there. It begins, how do we respond? My dear friends, we've gathered for Easter, and we will gather probably around tables with friends and family throughout this entire day. But I want to ask you, if this story means anything, then how do we respond? Who are we going to tell? How are we going to ask, Lord, I know you didn't die for nothing so I can stand complacent. What are you calling me to do? What rock are you calling me to witness? What rock are you going to move out of the way? What person are you going to put in front of me that I tell this story to so that they too will believe you move the big stones in our lives? Because, my dear friends, if we just know it up here and don't believe it in here, then so what? Then this doesn't mean anything. Then take your donut and go. But if it means something more than that, then take your donut for sustenance. Enjoy this fellowship and go tell someone that Jesus lives today. And that God is still at work. That God is still in the stone-moving business. Because we are who we are, some of us might know who Jeremy Camp is, and I can't help but think whenever we're getting ready for Easter, our Lenten journey, there's a song that he has that's called Same Power. I wanted to read a bit of the chorus from that. This so reflects Romans 10 for us today. The same power that rose Jesus from the grave. The same power that commands the dead to wake lives in us. Can I read that for you again and ask Alexa to find it for you? If you haven't heard it yet, Google it, YouTube it, whatever. It's Jeremy Camp called The Same Power. The same power that rose Jesus from the grave, the same power that commands the dead to wake, lives in us. That same conquering God lives in us. That's why we ask of the Holy Spirit every time we gather to be amongst us, to take control, not to take a back seat, not to just be welcomed here in the back, not that the back's a bad place to be, but lives in us. The one that bears witness, the one that walks through us, that's already here preparing a place for us. That's the same power that resurrected Jesus, that led to an empty tomb, that moved the stone away. That's the same power that's alive in us. So what is that power calling us to do? What is God calling us to encounter? Who is God putting on our hearts to tell the story? I want us to tell it so often. I want us to tell it so freely that, Pastor, I know it's hard. I don't know the right words. Well, you got to start somewhere. I've been listening to my 6-year-old mess up words all day long, but she's getting there. She's learning how to pronounce them. She's learning how to read, much to my amazement. But you know, at 3 years old, she was slurring and didn't say anything right. But she is now. It comes with practice. It comes with intentional. And it comes because people around her are encouraging her to share this story. My dear friends, we need to encourage each other to share this story. Could you imagine any other way to die than to take your last breath here in heaven and look at Jesus and say, you know, I was just telling somebody about you. Yeah. Is there any other way? I was just telling somebody. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. But what's next? Who will you tell? How will you respond? Will we be intimidated? Or we will believe in the maker of stones, can move stones, or can even break them?